In this intermediate sketching lesson, we are going to examine the slot sketch tool. But before we do that, let's begin a new sketch. On the front plane is fine. And then returning to the sketch ribbon, notice we do have an icon for a slot. But also notice next to it we have a drop down arrow which represents that we have more than one slot option. So if I click the drop down arrow, notice we have a straight slot, center point straight slot, 3-point arc slot, and the center point arc slot. We'll begin with a straight slot. Now the property manager opens, and like other commands that we have seen, notice how detailed the graphics are for each option. The numbers represent the order that you will select the points for creating each one of these slots. So we'll begin with a straight slot. But before we do that, notice we have an Add Dimensions. This will add dimensions to the slotted feature as you create it on the screen. This is very handy. It saves you the time of later on going to the Smart Dimension command and adding dimensions manually. This will do it for you automatically. So we're going to leave this checked. Right below this, you can choose whether you want your slots to be dimensions center to center or the overall dimensions. We'll stay with center to center and then begin our straight slot. So I'm going to go out to the screen, select my first point, followed by the second point. Now that's a center to center distance. And my third point is the width of the slot. Now if I close out of the slot command, I can double click on the Smart Dimensions and update the size of the slotted feature. Going back into the slot command, I'm going to go to a center point straight slot, and notice our first point is going to be the center point of the slot itself. The second point will be the center point of one of the radiuses of the slot, and the third point signifies the width of the slot. So going out to the screen, here's my center point, and then the center point for one of the radiuses, and then the width of the slot. The third option is 3-point arc slot. Center point are the first 2 points. Third point is going to be the midpoint or center point of the center line of the arc, and the fourth point will signify the width of the arc. So I'll go ahead and select it, pick my first center point, second center point, and notice my third point. As I move my cursor back and forth, I can control the direction of the slot. I'll go ahead and select, and then the width of the slot. Notice the dimensions that are applied: radius, the width of the slot, and the angle between the centers. The last option is center point arc slot. And notice the first point we select is the center point of the slotted feature itself. So first point, second point. And notice if I move the cursor in this direction, the preview of the center line. However, if I move it in the opposite direction, once again, notice the preview of the center line. I select the third point, and then my fourth point is the width of the slotted feature. And again, we have the same dimensions that we do with the last option.